All right, so we're just going to dive in. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Tiffany was going to say a few words, but I think we've got a little bit of issues here. Either way, thanks guys for attending. Welcome to the fourth installment of Webinar Wednesday, being put on by Tie-Ins and NSTA. Really excited to be chatting with you guys again. We took a little break for 1 week, but we're back in action and we've got one more session ahead next week. So the topic for this week is going to be Twitter. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Twitter. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, then you might be hiding under a rock, because Twitter has definitely been one of the most talked about social networks over the past few years. And it's really changed the world in the way that we interact with each other, the way we interact with the news, and the way that we do business. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about how you can use Twitter effectively to drive meaningful and measurable results for your business and for your organizations. Twitter is a channel that definitely has seen both a combination. Oh, sorry, guys. I have a notification coming through on my computer. Not 100% sure what's going on there. Here we go. Sorry about that. Twitter has been a tool that has definitely changed the way that we communicate, changed the way that we interact with each other, and it's really changed the way we do business. It's allowed people and organizations to interact with consumers in real time. So when somebody's experiencing your restaurant, experiencing your bed and breakfast, they're able to interact with you in real time. I think back to probably about a year ago. I was at a restaurant right here in Halifax, and I was sitting down and I was having a debate between this burger and I think it was a lamb meal, a lamb dish. So I sent out a tweet and I was like, hey folks, what should I get? Should I get this burger or should I try this lamb? And within seconds, people started responding to me and interacting with me, telling me the different items on this menu that I should try. So my experience that I was having at this restaurant was already being facilitated and changed based off of the fact that I was using Twitter. So these responses started coming in. A lot of people started telling me that I should try this burger. And then instantly, something crazy happened. The restaurant actually responded to me while I was there inside the restaurant, was like, actually, you cannot get that burger because the horseradish that goes into the sauce is all ran out. And I was like freaking out. I was like, holy smokes, I'm inside of this place and they're tweeting at me. I know that they can tell who I am because I'm the only one with my head in my phone. And it was crazy, but it was cool at the same time. So without an actual interaction with the waitress, I was able to come to the conclusion that I wasn't going to get the burger, I was going to get the lamb. And I didn't have any interaction with a human being outside of that Twitter interaction. So there wasn't no awkward situation where the waitress took my order, went back to the chef, and the chef said there wasn't enough horseradish. That experience just took place on its own. And that's the power of Twitter. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Next week, we're going to be talking about some of those new networks, such as Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest. We're going to talk about some of those channels that have really just recently started to change the game. But let's do a quick recap for anybody who hasn't been on the Webinar Wednesdays over the past little bit around some of the items that we've already discussed. I won't spend a lot of time here, but I will give you guys a refresher because we did have that week off. So one of the key things that we talked about is how much content is out there in the world. We talked about how there's more content being created every single week, every single day, every single minute than ever before. The content that is being distributed and developed is significant, whether it's memes, whether it's advertisements, whether it's tweets, whether it's Snapchats, whether it's cat photos. It could be anything. But all of this content is resulting in a world filled with noise. So what we need to do as marketers and as brand organizers, as brand owners and business owners, we need to look for opportunities where we can cut through this noise and really differentiate ourselves and stand out amongst the noise. So that's what a lot of our content and a lot of the things that we've been talking about has been around. It's been around how you can tell a better story, how you can connect with your audience and tell them a message surrounding your brand that really resonates with them. And one of the ideas that we talked about was blogging, and how blogging is the channel that opens up a significant world of opportunities for organizations and brands through both the SEO benefits, but also from a social media benefit. We talked about this process of creating content that's either remarkable or compelling, creating content that ultimately drives a conversation. And when that conversation starts to take place, that content itself starts to form this thing called a community, where people start talking about your stories, start talking about your content without you actually being there, without you being in the weeds. And that's when something special happens called expertise. You start to be seen as an expert within your industry, within your field, and people start to elevate you a bit. People start to look at you as the go-to resource when it comes to lobster, when it comes to hiking, whenever it comes to a topic and a story that is relevant to your business and relevant to your organization. From there, we started to talk about some of the channels and the ways that you could get your message out there, how you could tell your story more effectively. And one of those ways we talked about was Facebook. And that's what we discussed last time. We talked about how Facebook could really allow you to amplify your story and get it out there to the masses. Today, we're going to switch it over and we're going to start talking about Facebook. But some of the elements that we discussed last time when we talked about Facebook, and we talked about the power of images, when we talked about the power of using reactive storytelling or hijacking things that were happening in the news and then putting an interesting, unique spin on them, those same concepts, those same ideas that we discussed when talking about Facebook can be applied to Twitter. When you talk about those rich visuals and how they drive interaction, how they drive shares, the same philosophy is true when we think about things like Twitter. When we think about Twitter, it's still rich visuals that are going to drive interaction, and we're going to talk about those a lot. We have a lot of things to cover today. We have a lot of tips. I am going to essentially open up my little black book filled with insights and tips and tricks that have allowed me to see and help organizations grow their followings significantly and very quickly. Today, we're going to talk about Twitter. If you're not familiar with Twitter, I strongly recommend you check it out. Over 300 billion tweets have been shared since the network launched. 300 billion. That's significant. And yes, a lot of those pictures and tweets that are being sent are probably just people sharing photos of their coffee or talking about what they had at lunch. And while some of us might say that's just noise, that noise is actually an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity because those conversations that are happening, those messages, those tweets that people are spreading, those are stories that are happening about your brand, that are happening about your organization. People are sending out those things saying, yes, I'm just out having lunch, but they're mentioning your restaurant when they're doing it. They might be tweeting, oh, I'm in Halifax for the weekend. But yes, that's a tweet that is saying that they're at your bed and breakfast. That's a photo that they've taken of something that was in your stairwell. That's a photo with the dog that happens to stay at your bed and breakfast, whatever that may be. They're sharing that content. They're telling that stories. And you need to recognize that there's no way to control it. The only thing that you can do, the only thing that any of us can do from a brand perspective is accept the fact that, one, we can't control the message, but we can most certainly influence it. And that's the goal today. The goal is to show you how you can influence that conversation to ensure that the conversation itself is telling a story that resonates with your brand and resonates with the message that you want to communicate to the world. So this is Twitter. This is a quick rundown from Twitter. Essentially, what Twitter is in a nutshell, it's a place where you send out tweets, and a tweet is 140 characters or less. 140 characters or less, you send it out. People see it, the world consumes it, and the way that you can interact with people is one of two ways. So on Facebook, you can add someone as a friend. On Twitter, you can follow someone. So following someone is saying, me as Ross Simmonds, if I follow you on Twitter, I'm subscribing to any content you send out. So if you send out a tweet and I follow you, I'm going to see that content in my Twitter feed, which means I'm going to read everything that you put out there, everything that you distribute. One thing that a lot of people don't get, and we're going to talk about a lot of these little tricks throughout this presentation, is that when you reply to someone and you start it with an @ symbol, so you can see the second tweet down here, that tweet is only going to be seen by the people who follow me and the people who follow Craig McBreen. So the people who just follow me aren't going to see this tweet. The only people who would see it are those who follow both me and Craig McBreen, because I put that @ symbol in it. So what Twitter says is if you start a tweet with an @ symbol, it means that you are talking to someone individually. So that's why sometimes you see people put a dot in front of a reply, because they want their entire follower base to see that tweet. They want everyone to see it. If you just have the @ symbol at the beginning of a tweet, the only people who are going to see it are you and the person you're talking to and those who follow both of you at the same time. So this is what a tweet looks like. It can include a link. It can include an image. It can include a link to a YouTube video. It can include a variety of different things. But a tweet is 140 characters. It was essentially, Twitter was created with the original idea to replace text messaging. If you remember those old peanut phones from Motorola, they only had 140 characters or less that you could use in a single text message. And because of that, Twitter tried to replicate it. Twitter tried to use it as an inspiration for how they could um, allow people to distribute messages. So that's Twitter in a nutshell. There's replies, which means you're talking to someone. A tweet is just what you're pushing out there. And then we have followers and following. So people who follow me receive my tweets, and people who I follow, I would receive their tweets. If I could recommend one thing, if you're not on Twitter, if you're not embracing this tool yet, it would be to start by listening. It would be just start out by setting up an account and listening to what's going on Twitter. I'm not recommending that you jump on and actually just dive into the conversations. That's a straight, easy road to mediocrity. It's an easy road to mess up and make a mistake. What I'm recommending is that instead you take a chance and you actually jump in, just having a moment to absorb the information and the way that people interact, because Twitter doesn't interact the way that most people do. And I'm going to talk you through a little bit of the Twitter lingo. But first, I really think that if I could sell you on one thing on Twitter, it would be to start by listening, because you'll be able to listen and understand the value that you can get very quickly. I mean, if you simply go to Twitter and you go up to the search and you type in things like trip to Halifax or visit Cape Breton, what you're able to do is you're able to get results back of anybody who's mentioning those keywords. You're able to see anyone who is talking about taking a trip to Halifax, making a visit to Cape Breton, whatever that may be. And what you're able to do by simply listening is find potential customers. I mean, think back to the first story that I told you guys about how I was in a restaurant and the restaurant itself tweeted to me and told me that I couldn't get the burger that I was going to order because they were out of something in the kitchen. That is because they were listening. They were using Twitter search, they were watching their mentions, and they were staying on top of the ball. And I've been able to have a great experience there. I've gone back there, and it was because they were listening. So what you're able to do is you're also able to not only find when people are talking about your brand and talking about experiencing your service, your product, you can also find people before they actually buy. So in our first session, our first webinar, we talked about the process that people take when they're about to book a trip or when they're about to make a decision around their tourism purchases. Twitter is a part of that. When people are sending out tweets, when they're talking about it with their followers, when they're talking about it with their friends, you have an opportunity to jump into this conversation and engage. So this person is saying, who is going to be in Cape Breton this year? That's an opportunity for you to engage and respond. If you are, what is your favorite place to visit? You respond to them and say, hey, this is our favorite place to visit, or have you ever thought about visiting our hiking trails? Whatever that may be, have a conversation with people. Take an opportunity to engage. And then you see at the bottom here, super mini work trip to Halifax on the 1st. Spoiler, I probably won't be coming home. Ship my pets and boyfriend. You can respond back to this person and say, have a great time in Halifax. Have a great burger. Give us a show, something like that. You can tell that Burger Week's on my mind. That's my second mention of burgers, and you'll see a few of those throughout this presentation. But you also want to listen because you can learn the Twitter lingo. This presentation is going to be fully available, so you can actually look at this and really go back to it to understand what these items are. But this is Twitter lingo. You're going to see things like FF, which means follow Friday, or you're going to see DM, which means direct message. A direct message is when somebody sends you a tweet, but only you can see it. These are some of the things that people say on Twitter that you might not be very familiar with. Hashtag, which is the pound key. What that essentially does is it essentially creates a word or a phrase into a searchable item. We're going to talk about those a little bit more later on as well. But what that allows you to do is to take, for example, if you do hashtag HFX traffic, or if you wanted to stick with the fact that we're doing this webinar and we have a hashtag, you could use the hashtag tourismww, and you'll be able to see what other people have said over the course of the past few weeks when they've been attending these webinars, and you can interact with each other. That's what a hashtag is. It's a way for people to interact on a specific topic and stay and keep communicating with each other. RT means retweet. So there's a function directly in Twitter now that allows you to do a retweet. But if you want to do a retweet, you just see the word, you put RT in the beginning of a tweet, you mention someone, and then that would be considered a retweet. Then there's things like TLDR, that means too long didn't read. So that's when you're reading something that's a very long article. There's Music Monday. So every Monday you can share something that you're listening to, something that you're playing on your record station or listening to on the radio, whatever that may be. And then there's things like OH. A lot of these different hashtags, a lot of these different keywords, a lot of these different acronyms are used on a regular basis. So I strongly recommend that you get to know the lingo, or you might have no idea what's going on with a lot of the things that are being said. After that, you want to start by interacting and adding value. This is really when the value from Twitter really comes to life. If you start interacting with people, if you start distributing content that provides value to their lives, you are going to stand out. People are going to celebrate you. People are going to retweet you. And you're going to see an increase in the number of people following you without question. One example of this, and one of my favorite examples that I've seen, is from Boneheads Barbecue. They have their own story, they have their own tone, and they stick to it very well. You can see that above, Lolo RX tweeted out, "Awesome feast at Boneheads Barbecue. It had been way too long." And then Boneheads responds back, "Absence makes the heart grow fonder and the stomach emptier." So they're having a conversation. They're interacting with these people in a nice, clever, humorous way, but they're sticking to their brand story. They're sticking to a message that connects with them. And they're telling people, yes, absence makes the heart grow fonder and the stomach emptier, and they're having fun. So don't forget to have fun when you're sending out your tweets, and embrace the idea of communicating with a little bit of humor. And then below, we have another tweet from Leo. I think the M in Mondays stands for meat. Hitting up Boneheads Barbecue with TJ Grant. The M definitely stands for meat, and also for more. So again, they're having a playful conversation. That's the interaction. And when you have that interaction take place, you're able to establish a community. People start to embrace your brand. People start to go to you simply because they feel connected to you, and you're able to stand out in the noise. We talked about this before. There's a lot of noise being distributed on Twitter and on a variety of different channels. So if you can connect with people and you can have that true, meaningful dialogue going back and forth, people will remember you. You can rest for sure that these people had this experience, they had this conversation, and they went back because they felt as if they were connected to the brand itself. Now, on Twitter, it really comes down to remembering, similar to Facebook, similar to the blog, that there's three E's. We've talked about this before. The three E's are crucial to achieving success. Before you send out a tweet, you need to ask yourself, does this tweet fall into the three E's? And the three E's are entertain, engage, and educate. If your content doesn't do that, then you probably shouldn't share it in the first place. If it doesn't do one of those three things, you probably shouldn't distribute that content. So here are a few examples of content that falls into that vein. So educate. Educational content is content that informs people about things that they didn't know before. It informs them about your business. It informs them about your industry. It informs them about products. It could inform them about your menu, whatever that may be, events that are taking place, promotions that are taking place. That's educational content when you're providing people with insight and information. On the left-hand side, you can see it's here, Halifax Burger Week. Open at 4 p.m. Steakhouse sliders are waiting for you. That's an educational piece of content. And then they've taken it to the next level by including a photo. So the photo itself is also educational because now I know exactly what's going to be on this burger. And then you look at the tweet on the right from Crave. Again, very educational. It gives me all the information I need to know what I'm going to get when I go to Crave to get their burger for Sunday kickoff. So again, they're providing that information. They're providing insight. You want to educate people when you're sharing content on Twitter. But you also want to entertain them. It's not just about educational content. You want to be willing to make people smile. You want to be willing to make people laugh. This is a post that just a regular user put out there on Twitter, but Crave Burger retweeted it. I mean, with the weather, the way that it's been here in the East Coast, I mean, We could have a field day with the type of content and jokes that we're putting out there as brands and as marketers. There's a whole bunch of different opportunities for us to create funny photos like this and just distribute them. And if you can do that, if you can distribute this content, people will resonate with it. As you can see, this one got 7 retweets. It got 10 favorites. People were engaged with it. But it goes beyond just retweeting it. You can also create the content yourself. So you can see Nova Scotia Webcams took a great opportunity where they said, okay, we've got this storm, we're capturing all of this great footage, we're capturing all of these great images, let's do something fun. So let's replace the White House with an actual snowman. And that's what they did. So as a result, Nova Scotia Tourism, which has, I think, more than 10,000 or so followers on Twitter, was able to then tweet it out to their followers and increase the level of engagement that Nova Scotia Webcams was able to generate from it. And then we have the post from Pavia Gallery, another example of taking something specifically around our weather and allowing it to go viral. So they essentially took the combination of both their brand story and combined it with something that was happening in real time. So they sell Italian coffee. They are very Italian based, a lot of Italian inspired dishes and meals. So what they're able to do is they put up a picture and it shows a flooded street outside of their store, and it says gondola. We're closed today, but we're offering gondola rides to make their place a little bit more authentically Italian. So this post generated 26 retweets, 36 favorites, and it also, if I was to go beyond Twitter, it went ridiculously viral on Facebook alone. So again, they were entertaining, they had fun. What you need to recognize, though, is similar to Facebook, guys. Reactive content wins. And when I say reactive content, I'm talking about content that takes something that is top of mind, that everybody is talking about, that everyone is engaged in, a story that everyone's discussing, and pushing that out through a piece of content such as these. When the royal family had a baby and they found out that it was going to be a boy, Lululemon put up this post and it said, "Fresh Prince, the wait is over." Simple as that. When The Dark Knight came out, Oreo, they took an actual Oreo cookie and they carved it to look like an actual Batman symbol. Again, these are reactive stories. These are messages that people are more likely to share. The final 3E is engage. So engaging content is really one of those pieces that drives the other person, the person on the other end of the computer, to interact with you, to stir up some conversation. So the Westin recently held a contest with Elements where they simply asked people to upload a photo of themselves giving a smooch. I seen somebody upload a photo and they were smooching their dog. I don't know if dogs are allowed at Elements, but that's the kind of thing that you want. You want people to be interacting because of the content that you're distributing. You want to be looking for user-generated content. You want to have people interacting with you one-on-one. Retweeting people. So you can see Two Doors Down is retweeting people when they're talking about their kale salads, when they're talking about their burgers. People are being retweeted for creating that content. So you need to be engaging with people because that's an interaction. If you retweet me, you're engaging. If you reply to me, that's an engagement. If you're asking me to do something, that's an engaging piece of content. That's what you want to do. And if you can do that, you'll be successful. But one of the opportunities I definitely strongly believe is that you leverage that reactive storytelling, guys. It's something that is really starting to pick up and it's really starting to speak for itself. When you look at things like this tweet from Oreo that back then was able to generate more impressions and more views than any Super Bowl commercial because it was sent during the Super Bowl when all the lights went out, you can clearly see that there's an opportunity there. So that's really it. If you can create content that's engaging, entertaining, and educational, trust me, you'll be successful. So now we're going to go into Power Drive. We're going to go through some pro tips that will really take your Twitter game to the next level. We've got a lot of tips to cover, 21, and we don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to go through them. I hope you're taking notes. I hope that they connect with you and I hope they resonate. Because if you can take these tips and combine them with those 3 E's, I am very confident that you'll be able to succeed on Twitter. You'll be able to see an increase in your followers. You'll be able to see an increase in your engagement, and you'll be able to really stand out as being one of the better Twitter accounts in the industry. All right. So the first one, write better headlines. If you're linking to an article that has been written, you want to ensure that the article that you are clicking to is prefaced by a description or a headline that is actually clever and isn't clever, but is actually something that's worth clicking. So we talked about this during the blogging webinar, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But what you need to do is you need to ensure that you're not giving it all away in the excerpt. So in that text, when you send out a tweet, you don't want to say, you want to take inspiration from sites like Upworthy or BuzzFeed, where they're writing things like 55 reasons why you need to stay in Nova Scotia, or OMG, I saw this on my way through the Cabot Trail. I can't believe what I saw. And then people will click it. You don't want to say, I saw a moose and the moose had blue antlers on the Cabot Trail, because somebody's not going to click it because they already know what they're going to see when they click it. But if you give them a little bit of a tease and you make them want to click because they feel as if they're intrigued or that they're missing out on something, you're more likely to get that click. So ensure that when you're distributing tweets that you follow these guidelines. Don't overthink it. Some of your headlines won't work. Some of them will. So you should also consider testing it. Throw out different types of headlines. Use a variety of different styles and approaches and see how that works. Space out your tweets. Try to spread them out by 15 minutes. A lot of people get all excited after listening to a webinar on Twitter and they go crazy tweeting. Don't do that. Slow down, take a deep breath, and space out your tweets. There's tools like Buffer and Hootsuite, which I'll talk about later, that allow you to schedule your tweets as well. So you don't necessarily have to be on your computer for the entire day sending out tweets. You can spread them out. You can have them optimized to be spread out when your followers are actually spending more time online as well. So you want to look at those tools and you want to leverage them to ensure that you're spreading out your content, that you're distributing it at a rate that's reasonable, and that you're not bombarding your Twitter followers with a flood of tweets. Because if you do that, they'll become annoyed. They'll unfollow you. Nobody wants to scroll on to Twitter and see nothing but your content over and over and over again. They want to see your content, but they also want to see their friends. They also want to see their daughters. They want to see their sons. They want to see their girlfriends. They want to see their boyfriends. They want to see all of that content. So don't flood them with yours. I strongly recommend that you check out Twitter Analytics. It's a new feature within Twitter. It just came out last month. If you go to analytics.twitter.com, it will automatically, you have to be logged into Twitter, of course, it will automatically then hit your account and deliver you with some insights and information that will allow you to be better with your engagement. For me, I found this a few weeks ago, and as you can see, my percentages right across the board, minus the tweets linking back to me, has increased. So I'm up 144 new followers. My mentions are up 7.8%. I have 23% increase in my profile visits. I'm able to gather some serious, valuable insights just from going to this URL. I'm able to see if I'm actually improving. I'm able to see how many tweets I've actually sent out. I can get a better understanding of how far my content is even going. You can gather this insight and you can use it every single week. So for example, I was logged in, and these are some of the key things that it showed me. It showed me that my top follower was this gentleman, Joshua Davidson. He's the founder of a studio. He's been featured on Fox, Mashable. He's a Philadelphia sports fan, similar to me. And he's followed by 699,000 people. Okay, so that makes sense for me to check this guy out, follow him, and interact with him. You can see the top tweet. So the top tweet is the tweet that I've sent out that has generated the most engagement. So it has 18 retweets, 19 favorites, and it's an image. So what I'm saying to myself from seeing this, okay, people want me to share content with images, so I can learn from that. The next piece, you can see that there's top media. So this is a tweet that went viral. It generated the most shares. It generated the most impressions. And then we have this tweet of my top mention, which is a tweet from a guy named Joel. And he said that my SlideShare decks are blowing up and how it can help you really drive real business for your work. So again, you can use Twitter Analytics to gather some serious insight and use that insight to really guide your approach in saying, okay, this is the type of content my audience wants. This is the type of content I need to deliver to them. With more data, you're more intelligent. If you have this type of intelligence, if you have this type of insight for your brand, you'll be able to really start to guide and create stories that are more meaningful. You'll be able to develop and tell stories that actually connect with people. You'll know what type of content your followers want to see. You'll know what type of tweets you need to be sharing. And in doing so, you'll be able to succeed. You'll be able to succeed because people will start to notice your content and they'll start to engage with it more frequently than they would have if you were sharing what you always have been. One of another pro tips is to follow interesting people. So you should all follow me. I'm kidding, not kidding. But you can follow people who are interesting in your world, interesting in your space. You can follow people who you know are going to share content we're sharing on your own channels because retweets come into play. You can find people who are relevant, who are sharing content that is interesting, and interact with them. Start to engage with them. Start to have conversations with them. That's what you want to do. But you should really consider how to find these people. For me, there's this great application that is called Mention Map, and I'm going to show you quickly how you could apply it to yourself. But what it allows you to do is it plugs into your Twitter account. So I plugged in mine, and it shows me all of the people who have high influence that have been tweeting about me, tweeting to me. So as you can see here, we have Elite Daily, we have SEM Rush, which is a marketing blog. We have Joel Cleat, the guy who tweeted about me before, and I can start to dive in and really get an understanding of what these people are all about, who is following me, why they're interacting with me. But you can do it in the tourism space, and you'll be able to take this insight to really guide some of your activity. So I plugged into Mention Map, Visit Nova Scotia. What this did is it scanned Twitter to identify who are the most influential people who are interacting with Visit Nova Scotia on a regular basis that I currently follow. So I see that there's this person, Michael Din, who's tweeting at Visit Nova Scotia quite a bit. They have some interactions going on. I might want to dig into following this person as well. I see that he's following Sac Vegas. He's following Halifax Retails. I'm going to follow them as well. I'm going to start to build up my followers, the people I'm following, by using this as a guide, because I know if Visit Nova Scotia tweets me, then I'm going to have more reach. So I can get into their tribe by tweeting with those who are already in it. I also start to see the hashtags that they're using. So Nova Scotia Eats, it's a hashtag where they're talking about food. I want to start using that hashtag on my own Twitter when I'm sending out tweets that include food, because I notice that one of the hardest lines coming from this app is directly to Nova Scotia Eats. So people who are using that hashtag are more likely to be retweeted by Visit Nova Scotia, which means that's a hashtag that I want to use when I'm sharing photos of my food and cuisine. Again, this is some awesome insight. You can go in here, you can start to click around, and you can start to find a map of who's interacting with who on a regular basis and really help you identify who you need to follow, who you need to engage with, and who you should be building into your tribe as it relates to kind of your Twitter presence. So on Twitter, there's also this thing called a tweet storm. So sometimes 140 characters just isn't enough. You want to send out more tweets than that. You want to deliver a significant message. Now, tweet storms are relatively new. They recently came out with the idea of the reply. So the way that it works is as simple as this. You send out a tweet. Then once you've sent out that tweet, you reply to your own tweet, but you delete your Twitter handle name. So, for example, I sent out this tweet, 4 email hacks, how to manage your inbox effectively and efficiently. For me to start a tweet storm, which is what you see here on the left, where every single tweet is in chronological order and there's no one cutting him off in between these tweets, I just need to reply back to myself. And then what happens is the tweets will start to stack on top of each other like this. The preferred approach is to put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so people know the order of those tweets that you've sent out. As a result, if somebody clicks on that first tweet that you sent, they will have a stream that shows all of those tweets in order from 1 to 10 in order. So you can kind of do a mini blog on Twitter using a tweet storm. So again, what you do is you send out your first tweet, put a 1 in front, and then you start to reply back to that tweet, and then the trend continues. So you continue to reply back to your other tweet, and then you start to get this heavy block of content, which is called a tweet storm. Now, this is not something that you want to use every single day. This is a very powerful tool. This is a very powerful opportunity, but it's not something that you want to overdo. Tweet storms are something that you want to do if there's something very, very important or essential that you want to communicate. So if you're If you really want to communicate an amazing event that's taking place, or you have a rant that you want to go on because you disagreed with something that was written about you in the media, whatever that may be, that's an opportunity to use a tweet storm, but you don't want to overdo it. On Twitter, there's these things called Throwback Thursdays. So Throwback Thursdays are essentially every Thursday, the world unites as a unit to say, let's share our old photos. Let's share images from way back in the good old days. And that's what brands are doing. And brands are doing it in the chat. They're able to achieve some meaningful results from it. So you can see the Fairmount sent out this old picture from 1970, and it's an old photo. It got 12 retweets. The Plaza Hotel sent out one, they had 7 retweets. Again, they're sharing content that is old, nostalgic, and connects with people. People love old photos. So if you can distribute them and you have those old images on a Thursday, just use hashtag Throwback Thursday or hashtag TBT, like you see in these 2 tweets, and you'll be able to resonate and connect with people as the entire world takes place and gets involved in this thing called Throwback Thursdays. You also want to promote other people's accounts. So in the tourism industry, we often think about competition, but you also need to think about the opportunity as it relates to kind of working together, being one unit, moving towards a positive result for everyone. So you can see, as an example, Salvatore's. They're tweeting out specifically that they're at Highland Drive, which is a butcher. So they're promoting another business. By them promoting another business, that business is going to retweet it. As that business retweets their content, it's going to be going out to an entire different audience. That's the power of Twitter. If you're talking positive about people, if you're supporting each other, you can even start like a little group where you say, hey, we're all going to retweet each other's stuff. If you're in separate industries, if you're in separate regions, that again makes a lot of sense. You want to support each other. Bishop's Landing. This is a brilliant post. What they did was they said so many good options, but our Halifax Burger Week post picks include Bicycle Thief, La Fresca, Gahan, and Two Doors Down. So each of those restaurants then retweeted that post to all of their followers. And then people started clicking that link, which drove to their blog and ultimately elevated the Bishop's Landing brand itself. It drove more people to experience it. It got their brand in front of more people. You're able to do that. So if you're a restaurant, if you're a hotel and you're not taking a part of Burger Week, send out a tweet and just say, our picks include this, 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 and this. And I guarantee you all of those restaurants are going to retweet you. And that's going to give you a surefire win to have your reach go exponential. Retweet people when they're experiencing your brand. So when people are actually at your hotel, when people are actually taking part in your experience, if they're hiking and they're taking a photo on your back trails, or if they're golfing at your resort, whatever that may be, when they're experiencing something within your brand and within your industry, retweet it, because people want to feel connected to it. You can see again, Omni Hotels, they retweeted this picture of somebody who just shared the view from one of their rooms. Two Doors Down retweeted this picture of somebody who was eating chili fries. So that tweet then distributes to all of the Two Doors Down followers. So if I'm on Twitter and I'm just spending some time, wasting time, and it's getting close to lunchtime, so I'm sure we're all getting hungry, and this tweet comes across my Twitter feed, I'm going to say, maybe I'll go down there and I'll get some burgers and cheese fries. That's the kind of power that you have when you start to retweet other people's content. Because as we talked about a few classes ago, other people's content is brand content too. It tells a story. So you want to leverage that and you want to communicate it. One thing that you guys might have noticed recently in a lot of the examples that I've showed you is that a lot of these examples have images. And in the tourism world, images rule. You really do need to look at, okay, how can we leverage images when we're sharing these messages on our Twitter account? Twitter is great for tourism, but if you're solely sending out tweets with text, you're missing a huge opportunity. People connect with images more than they connect with text. We can based off of science, we essentially are able to process an image faster than we can process text. That's why they give us coloring books when we're very young, because we can connect with images easier. There's something that just connects with us as human beings. So inject photography into your Twitter account. Take photos with your mobile phone. If you don't have an amazing camera, use a mobile phone. Use an iPhone, use a BlackBerry if they have a great mobile phone application. Put some filters on it, make it look engaging. You want to use photos. And then once you have those photos, remember those hashtags that we talked about. You want to use hashtags that are relevant. So one of those hashtags that we talked about was Nova Scotia Eats. If you're sharing a picture of a smoothie like this from Elements, you want to use Nova Scotia Eats. Or if you have a picture of food that you've created, you want to use that hashtag to help it get spread to more people. Always try to leverage those relevant hashtags. What you'll find on Twitter is that every single day there's a new trend. There's new hashtags that are trending. One recent one was good advice in 4 words. So what this hotel did was they said, okay, we're a hotel. People can get married here. Good advice in 4 words, get married at Omni. That's it. So let's put up some pictures. Let's tweet it out. Let's hashtag it wedding, and let's see how people respond. They got 5 retweets from it. So because of that, maybe somebody booked a wedding at the Omni Hotel. It's very possible. When the dress was taking place, the dress went viral probably about 5 weeks ago now. But when that thing went viral, you could have been on top of that using the hashtag the dress and making references to your product in a funny way. You could have had somebody at the front desk saying, yes, I believe that the dress is black and blue, and I believe that it was gold and white, whatever that may be. Have some fun, interact with people, and leverage those hashtags as they go viral. Because hashtags really can amplify your tweet. Don't forget to use tourismww as a hashtag if you tweet throughout this. But these are some stats that demonstrate why hashtagging is so important. Tweets with 1 or 2 hashtags have 21% higher engagement than those with 3 or more. So what that's telling you is that you don't need to go too crazy with your hashtags. You want to use some, but you don't want to go too crazy. But you do want to use a hashtag because they generate 2 times more engagement than those that don't. Tweets with hashtags receive 2 times more engagement than those that don't. So that means use your hashtags. Understand what hashtags are going to resonate with people. It could be Visit Nova Scotia. It could be a hashtag like Nova Scotia Eats. It could be hashtag Halifax Burger Week. It could be hashtag Cape Breton Eats. It could be whatever you want. You could even come up with your own hashtag if you wanted to. But that's what you want to do when you're using Twitter. You want to inject those quick and easy hashtags that people would follow and that people would interact with. You also want to ensure that on Twitter, you have a captivating cover photo and a simple avatar. A lot of people get caught up in the idea that they need to have an avatar that is their actual destination. You want to make your avatar something that is easy to understand, especially in business. You want it to be something that is very easily recognizable. Unless your business is you as an individual, you don't want to have a face here. You are an organization. So you want to have your logo. You want to have an iconic symbol that represents you. You want that to be your avatar. When it comes to your cover photo, that's where you get creative. That's where you start uploading photos of your views, photos of your beach, photos of your restaurant, your favorite meals. Doing an approach similar to what these guys have done where they're showing multiple photos is also a great idea. And then take it the step further and create your own hashtag and throw that on your cover photo as well. That's how you can really have a Twitter presence that is compelling and really captivating when people visit it for the first time. Another pro tip, shorter links are always better than the long ones. I see this mistake happening all the time. People, when they're sharing a link, they simply use a very long link and it does this whole ... at the end. You want to shorten those. You want to use an app like Buffer. You want to use an app like Hootsuite. If you go to Google and you Google Google link shortener, you can also use Google's link shortener. Saying Google that many times in a sentence is very challenging. But you can do that and you can have shortened links. And you want to share those links because they drive more engagement. They're more likely to be clicked versus long links. Most people are less likely to click them. When you're sharing this content, when you're distributing these images, when you're distributing these links itself, you also need to recognize that it's okay to share a post more than once. It's okay to share a piece of content that you developed more than just once. Because the people who are on Twitter one day might not be the same people that are on Twitter the next day. The people who might be on Twitter in the morning might not be the same people who are on Twitter at night. And because they're following so many people and because content is constantly flowing through Twitter, it's very likely that your first post might have gotten missed. So don't be afraid to recycle, reduce, and reuse your content. And I was a little bit lazy with this one. I should have changed the image. But again, you can see that the difference is this post was able to get 1 retweet, this one was able to get 2 and some favorites, all from me just sharing it at different times. So some of these people might have saw this before, but this person did not. Thank people for following you. If you get new followers, you want to say thank you. Just say, hey, thanks for following. It could be a direct message. It could be public to the world. You want to tell people that you're grateful for them following you and taking the time to follow you. Even as simple as sending out a tweet that says, hey, everyone, thank you for following me. I really appreciate it. Or, hey, everyone who has followed us this far, we love and appreciate your support. That gratitude, that humbleness connects with people. And people want to see that from a brand. If you can do that, it makes you seem more human. So I would recommend that you say thank you, you show gratitude, and people will embrace it. People will feel as if they're connected to you, and they helped you become the brand that you are today. Another great application is this thing called Tweepy. So what Tweepy does is it allows you to get rid of those people who unfollowed you. I know it sounds like you don't. A lot of people might not like this idea, but sometimes you just need to do some spring cleaning. And in Nova Scotia, it happens to be spring, even though it doesn't look like that outside. So let's do some spring cleaning. Let's go through our Twitter accounts and let's clean up those inactives. You can use this app and you can find out who hasn't tweeted in the last 6 months. If somebody hasn't tweeted in the last 6 months and you're following them, it's probably time to unfollow them, because all it's doing is it's making it look like you follow a bunch of people and you only have a certain amount of people following you back. So you want to unfollow those people. Flush it out. Clean out those people who are inactive. And if there's certain people who you only followed because they followed you first and they unfollowed you later on, you can unfollow them as well. You can get those people to be unfollowed. You can unfollow those folks. So use this app. Strongly recommend it. Just Google Tweepy. You'll be able to go in and you'll be able to clean out your followers and flush those people who aren't connecting with you. But it is important to follow back. I mean, following people back does make a lot of sense. If your brand is growing significantly and you are not following people back, then it's probably not an approach you need to take. But if you look at the top accounts, I did a quick search on this app called Follower One from the keywords content marketing. And the majority of people who have the most following and the most social authority follow a lot of people as well. So if you follow people, they'll follow you. If you follow people back, then you're going to see an increase in the number of people who follow you as well. So following people is a nice way to retain those followers. I recommend it if you are definitely starting out. If your account is brand new, you want to follow people back. Use Bitly. Sites like Bitly allow you to also shorten your link and create things that are very small. Again, it goes back to that idea of having shortened links. So you definitely want to consider Bitly or using that Google link shortener as well. Finally, guys, you just have to have fun. That's really the benefit of Twitter. Twitter is a place where if you can have fun, if you can interact and have a little bit of humor in it, people will embrace you. People will celebrate you. This is a tweet that doesn't say anything. All it does is have sun, burgers, smiley faces, people going to sleep, and people retweeted it. People favorited it. People liked it. People interacted with it. This is a tweet that demonstrates an experience and demonstrates a little bit of brand personality. And that's what you need to do. And think outside of the box. Like, have fun, be creative, and do things that nobody else is doing. As an example, these guys, the lobster truck in DC, Red Hook, every single day they send out a tweet and they simply say where they're going to be. So they tweet out their destination, and every time they do, it's like a Where's Waldo kind of thing. They surprise people with where they're going to be. And when they send out that location over Twitter, people run out of their offices and they line up before they get there just because they want to try their lobster roll. So that's thinking outside of the box. If I could leave you guys with anything, it would be to have fun, think different, include images, and celebrate each other. Like, retweet each other, share each other's content, and then together as an entire industry, we'll be able to kind of rise up and be more effective and be more successful. And also check out Hootsuite. It's a great tool. It allows you to schedule those tweets. I think I've sent out 1 or 2 tweets while we've been talking, not 100% sure. But I was able to do that through tools like Hootsuite and Buffer.com. You want to be able to leverage these tools to be more effective, but also more efficient. And if it sounds like a lot and it sounds like it's a very daunting task, guys, don't stress. Focus on your goals. Go back to those 3 E's that we talked about: creating content that engages, entertains, or educates people. And if you can follow those 3 concepts and ensure that images are included in your approach and you're finding those right hashtags, you'll be successful on Twitter. That's all you need to do. Don't stress. It's not that crazy. It's not that overwhelming. You can do it. Everyone can. We just need to be able to focus on those goals and ensure that everything lines up directly with that. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to comment into the questions box. And we have a few minutes. I'll take those questions now. Thanks again. Somebody asked, are the programs like Hootsuite, etc., free? Yes, Hootsuite is free. Buffer app is another great application that you can use that is free. I believe every tool except for Follower Wonk that I talked about earlier today is a free tool that you could use. Peter says, this seems to be time consuming. Is it? 100%. It is time consuming. This is a whole nother way to drive business. It's going to take time. If you want to do it well, you have to put time into it. But you can generate serious revenue from it. You can generate real results. People are spending time here. So the question is whether or not you want to make money from Twitter. That's really it, because you can. The question is whether or not you're willing to make that investment. I have a question. What if you have more than one brand, for example, bed and breakfast and organic gardening? Do you need 2 Twitter accounts? It really depends on the story that you're telling. If you're saying to people that your bed and breakfast offers organic gardening on site and that people can buy your goods directly at your bed and breakfast, then I would say have 1 account. But if you have 2 separate brands entirely and they don't connect with each other at all, then I'd say, yeah, you would want 2 different Twitter accounts. So if you think of, like, what's an example of a brand that does that? Nike, for example. They have their overarching brand of Nike, but then they have sub brands, which would be like Nike Running or Nike Sports, Nike Soccer, those kind of things. And that's where you would look at an opportunity where you would want to differentiate the two. But if you can experience both businesses, both brands at the same location, you're telling the same story, they're very well connected, I would say 1 account is fine. Angela asked, TweetDeck or Hootsuite? I'm all in on Hootsuite. I don't know if TweetDeck is fully operational anymore, or that if they're still upgrading and improving. But Hootsuite is definitely my recommendation. It's also Canadian, which is always good to support. Someone asked, large companies can afford to hire someone. Being a small company, do I need to hire someone? I don't think you necessarily have to hire someone. I think that training and understanding it, spending some time with it, you can really do it well. I mean, there's a lot of small businesses throughout Nova Scotia that are doing an extremely well job with a 1 to 2 person operation. They just do it when they can, and that's really all you can ask. I mean, I've run a small business. I understand the other work that needs to be done. So it's a question of how do you make time? You need to simply add it to your daily routine. You need to find a little gap where you can spend time to send out a tweet. You need to find an email that will automatically send you an email when you need to set up notifications, that sends you an email when somebody tweets about you. That's what you need to look at. And I know through tie-ins, they offer a variety of different classes and sessions that you can actually take place in, where they'll send a mentor to you. That might be an opportunity for you. So you want to look at these opportunities as well to kind of get that hands-on training so you can do this effectively and efficiently. And don't forget students. Like, you can always tap into the student scene. Lots of people looking for work and looking for an opportunity, as simple as that. Great. Well, I think that's all the questions. Thank you guys very much for attending. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Looking forward to the next one. We'll chat then. Take care.